Hey Chums, welcome back to a Game with Chums podcast. Once again, I am your host, Paul, and once again, joining me is the ever radiant Franki. How are you doing, Franki?
Good. Yeah, I'm drinking wine on a lovely Sunday afternoon.
Cool.
It's very hot outside, so
Is it warm outside? I've not touched grass yet.
oh my gosh, it was about 26 degrees and it's September, so
It's climate
hot.
change for you, man.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be like either burning to death or underwater, or both. It could be
Yeah, yeah.
both. Yeah. So, um, cool, man. Today's podcast we're going to talk a bit about yourself because I know that's your favorite subject,
Oh,
and
yeah. I'm a
so
complete narcissist.
yeah, so but it's gonna be about your time in. You used to live in the glorious land of the Otaku dreamland wetland called Nippon, which is
Nippon, Nihon.
Nihon, which is Japan for us
Yeah,
uneducated Westerners. Because
yeah.
it's actually not Japan to Japanese, it's Nippon, isn't it?
It's Nippon is the old Japanese and Nihon is the current Japanese. So yeah,
Yeah.
either way.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about that in this
Yeah.
podcast. Because I think it's an interesting story.
And
uh,
just sorry,
yeah,
just a side note, like I know nowadays there's so many YouTubers who
yeah,
half their lives
yeah,
in
we'll
Japan.
get into that.
Yeah,
At the moment, we'll touch upon that. But
yeah.
um, yeah, like you studied at was it Kanda University
It was
in
yeah,
Chiba.
Kanda
Kan
Kanda Gaigo Gaigoku. It's Kanda International University of International Studies in Chiba in
Chiba
Makuhari Hongo.
Prefecture.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nakiori Hongo. I love that.
Makuhari Hongo,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, then you studied there for a year as a part of
Yeah.
like your was it a student exchange? What
Yes.
was it? How
It
did
was
that work?
foreign exchange
Foreign
program.
exchange. So you were there for your second or third year?
My last year
Third
in
year in
yeah,
university.
yeah,
Yeah, and then you decided to just stay and live there. Why
yeah, yeah. I stayed there for an extra 4 years,
4 years?
roughly three and a half years. Yeah,
So you were there for like probably about 4.5, nearly 5 years.
me, I would say four and a half going on 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what did you do in Japan while you were there? Was it mostly like teaching English, was it?
I had a couple of jobs actually, and you know some of them. So once I left university, I got a job as an English teacher at Berlitz.
What is Berlitz for people who
Berlitz
don't know?
was a good. It was an A.
Was
Well,
was this
it still is,
oh,
but back then it was a good place to learn foreign languages, and it wasn't just an A so you could learn A means English language school, but it also taught German, Spanish, French. It wasn't just in an English school. You could learn any language you wanted to. Berlitz was established in Germany.
well, the name is a big giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah, and it came to we have them in the UK as well. We have them all over Europe, and you can learn any language. And basically, Japan bought them out in I think the early noughties, and now they're owned by Japan. But essentially, you can learn any language you want to. So it's not just like a typical eikaiwa in Japan. So you could be in the staff room and speaking to German people, teaching German, Chinese, Korean, and that's what I really liked about it. And I really enjoyed working there because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what was your experience there? Like, did you have a good time? Was it stressful? Was it just just explain how you, or just let us know how you felt about working there.
I I think there's two sections of this we need to separate, right? We need to separate my time studying when I was
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant like, how was your time at Berlitz?
yeah.
But
Um,
you can do that. You can carry on. Sorry.
I think my time at university was one of the most fun and happiest times of my life.
Mm.
I really loved being in Japan. I loved living there. I loved learning the language.
Can
I went
we?
to,
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off, and we're going to back
yeah.
up a bit because why did you want to study in Japan? Like, let's get a bit more background into that. Then we can go into your time. Like,
Um,
I'm
I
trying to
think
be I'm trying to be a professional, not professional, but
professional.
semi-professional, like
Okay.
interviewer slash host.
So I got into Japan because of yourself, actually.
Hello.
Paul is my older brother, as we've established in prior podcasts and videos I've been in. But Paul really got me into Japanese. I would say like culture in terms of like anime and video games. I don't
Yeah.
think you got me into the history so much. I think you got
Mm.
me into kind of the mainstream kind of media. And I'm really thankful that you did that. But I kind of got myself into it as well because the first video game, I think, no, actually, I take that back. The first video game I ever played, which was Paul's video game, was Super Mario Brothers. And I really got into video games because of that. And the first anime I properly watched was about when I was 5 or 6, and it was Guyver. And it was a guy who wore that alien suit, and it was really graphic and it was really horrific. And I can't believe you allowed me to watch that when I was 6 or 7. Do you remember that movie you made me watch? Guyver? Do you remember Guyver?
I know Guyver.
Yeah,
Was it the manga or the anime I made you watch, or was it the film?
made me watch a movie, and he got like so many things happened to him when he was in that Guyver suit, and then he got ripped out of the Guyver suit. It was a movie, and he got
I
thrown.
don't think it was a movie. It was. I remember having the VHS, so I think it was the
Yeah,
TV series I made you watch.
yeah. It was pretty graphic, and I remember watching that. That was my first foray into anime.
Hmm.
And then when I got older, I got into Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon. And my mum got me my first Game Boy Color, and you got really annoyed because I was like 7 or 8, and mum bought me Game Boy Yellow with the Pokemon Yellow, and you were like, because I was crying. Do you remember this? This is
Hmm.
like my first foray into Japanese kind of video games, like on my own, was because you kept taking your Game Boy off me. Like I'd be playing, like mum bought me Pokemon Blue,
Yeah, yeah.
and I
Okay,
kept
we don't have to go into our family like things, man.
well, no, no, no,
Like,
no, no, no. But because we were kids, and I was playing, and then you were like, "No, no, I want to play it," and you took it off me, and then Mum bought me my own Game Boy. Do you remember? And then
yeah.
that's how I got into the video game,
Like,
and that's how I got into
like,
study.
I remember we used to watch anime. There was on a thing called Toonami, Cartoon Network, and it used to have like a lineup of like anime shows like Outlaw Star and stuff like that. I remember
Yeah,
watching
so
that.
we were. I was about 12 when we watched Outlaw Star. I was really young, so I was still in primary school.
Mm.
Watched Outlaw Star, and I remember because it came in on really late. It was like 9 or 10 for me. It was really late, and we had to keep making excuses to mum, like, "Oh, she needs to go to bed. It's school tomorrow," and you would be like, "No, no, 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 no. Just a little, like half an hour," and we'd watch Outlaw Star. But Outlaw Star is actually like quite adult when you watch Uncut. And we watched that on Toonami or Cartoon Network, late night
It
Cartoon
was
Network.
Cartoon Network, but it was they had a section called Toonami, which was like for primarily Japanese anime shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think what got me kind of established was when I got sick from primary school. I think I was like 11 or 12 or something like that. And then I borrowed a DVD of you, and I just picked it out of your room, and I just was so ill. And it was Spirited Away. And it was the Studio Ghibli movie. And I just was obsessed after that. That was what
Mm.
kind of established it for me after having all
Yeah,
this.
cool. So yeah, like now let's go back to your experience in. Do you want to split it into study and then how you were explaining it before, studying and then work
Yeah,
life?
I think Japan is one of those places where it's really good or really bad depending on what you're doing. So when I was a student, I absolutely loved it. I was really young, maybe 2021. 22 was by the time I finished studying. And it was the most amazing experience. I wish I could relive it a little bit again because it was just, I don't think I'll ever have that experience. I got to meet so many people from different countries. I got to really, I think if you really want to integrate into Japanese culture, you need to do it. You need to go to school there and you need to embrace and learn the language and the culture. I do really think a connection to a culture is via learning the language. So if you have that connection, you can really get integrated in culture. And then working there, I worked as an English teacher for Berlitz, and then I had a number of other jobs. I taught yoga for a bit, and then I worked for Daiwa House, and then other things like that.
Mm. What specifically did you enjoy about your time in Japan? What was it that made you think, wow, this is the best time? Um, well, would you say, was it the culture? Was it the people? Was it just living in a different country? Was it
I think
like the
I think
nightlife or
no, I don't think it was the nightlife. I think it was a bit of both, really, like a bit of everything you were saying. Like
yeah.
I think Japan, I think if you come to London for the first time, it can be like a bit overwhelming as well. And I think Japan is very much like that. Tokyo is very overwhelming. Would you agree? When you first get there, you're just like a bit like, oh my God, there's so much to take in, there's so much to do.
Mm.
Um, and when I first got to Tokyo, I actually lived in Chiba, so I lived outside of Tokyo originally. Japan is just, there's so much to do and there's so much to learn about the culture because up front you think you understand the culture, but you don't really understand the culture until you've lived the culture.
Mm.
And so there was so much to learn, so much to take in. And it was one of those cultures that you really desperately kind of want to be a part of, but you'll never be a part of. And that's kind of like the need to be involved in such an exciting world is part of the reason why I got sucked in so much into it as well.
How do you think your Japanese was or is?
I think the first time I think I was very overconfident when I first
Mm.
landed there because people used to think I was half Japanese when I was out there.
Mm.
And people would speak to me, they wouldn't really speak to me in English. The first thing they would speak to me in was Japanese. And I never really understood why that was. But kind of when you look back on it, I went to a university where a lot of Hafus go because they want to learn English or they want to learn Japanese, they want to learn something or other different. So I had a very different experience, I guess. But and then I kind of wanted to embrace, like, if people were speaking to me in the language, which was originally theirs, I would want to take that in a little bit more. And I think when you arrived, you were very impressed with my Japanese in the beginning. And then the second time you were like, oh, your Japanese got kind of crap. The first time I really embraced it because I was so integrated in the culture. I was dating a Japanese boy. My best friend Yuka was Japanese. My friends were Japanese, so I felt really like
Yeah,
completely.
you made some when you studied at your university here in England, you made friends who there was a lot of Japanese students who went to
Yeah,
your university, wasn't there? Uh,
yeah,
so
but
you
I
made
think
you made friends there, and then you stayed friends when you met some of them when you went over there, didn't you?
yeah, some of them I did, like Yuki, who a lot of them I've kind of not carried on being friends with, but Yuka, who you met, we went to Disneyland, is someone I met just out there. Like I didn't know her before. And then I was friends with Ali, the American girl who was my best friend as well. And she had a lot of Japanese friends. So we all had the kind of like very integrated experience when we was out there for university. And I was, dating a Japanese boy, which was kind of nice and different. And then when I went to work, it all changed. So it all became very westernized and very much
Did you, did you did you
my
have
own.
was when at Berlitz, because yes, it was a German company, but it was owned by Japan. They didn't have that same Japanese work culture, did it? Where there's a
No.
particular word for it where they I can't remember the word for it where they work late hours and then go
Yeah.
out. There's a specific word for it, but I don't know the word in English or in Japanese. But you didn't. It wasn't like that for Berlitz, was it?
No, it wasn't like that at all for Berlitz, but it was like that when I worked in Daiwa House.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it had that late work culture where you stay until 10 or stay as long as the boss is, and then go out to get
yeah,
like pissed up or something. And then
yeah.
because in Japan, they work. Some of the companies they work so late. I can't remember the word, and it's really annoying. But there is a specific with Japanese. They always have like a word for a particular part of their culture. But you see a lot of Japanese people falling asleep on trains because they
I
get
know what
worked
you're
and
talking about.
yeah.
Karoshi. Karoshi?
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know. I wouldn't know the word. I just know like there's a lot of like YouTubers I watch. They when they talk about Japanese work culture, they point it out, but I
Mm.
can't. Yeah, so it could be that. But yeah, you see them like falling asleep a lot on each other, and it doesn't happen in London. Well, sometimes it does, but not as often. Right, it's just so common there. You just people just fall like literally like just look like they're going to drop dead. It's it's. I
But
mean,
it's not
like,
the same. It's not the same. Like,
what do you mean? It's not the same.
because when Japanese people work, like when it's not, they're not working, it doesn't,
They're just sitting around, just
they're just sitting around and they're doing nothing. Like when I worked for Daiwa House, being productive is complete, like productivity and being present are two
mm.
different things.
It's
Um,
the salary man thing. That's what I was trying to like get at, where they
yeah,
just. But yeah, carry on. Yeah.
I mean, so like at my current company in England, I will work from 9 to 5, but from that 9 to 5, I'll be completely plugged in. I'll be like exhausted by the time I finish, and I'll be like really tired. But in Japan, I will work for Daiwa House, which you didn't come to see, was with my last year there, and actually what drove me to leave Japan was that I would be there until 8 p.m. in the evening. And I'd be walking home, and Ali sometimes would be finished before me, and she'd be working 2 till like in Berlitz, she would work. If you're working during the week, you start in the afternoon and finish like your hours are now. But I would have started at 9 a.m. in Daiwa House and finished at like 8 p.m. in the evening. And it just wasn't worth it at the end, and it kind of got me really
You not
angry.
you don't get overtime as well, do you? They expected
No.
you just to work and work for free. And just like, yeah.
So with Diver House, I was doing this kids. I was working as all the Japanese staff didn't speak English, which was why I took the job on because I wanted to use my Japanese, and none of them spoke English. So it was always like a lot of hard work to be doing these like curriculums, writing them in English, but then having to write them in Japanese. And we finished once we finished teaching, and then I was like 8 o'clock in the evening. I was exhausted, and the boss was like, "Okay, now we're going to the izakaya," and I was just like, "I just really want to go home. Like, I just don't want to."
I mean, like
Young, I was like
yeah,
23,
some
24.
people might think, oh, that's so cool. We can go out and the boss is going to get us drunk. I mean, it might sound fun, like once in a while, go for after work drinks. But you expect it to stay there. You expect it to go, and after a while, that just starts to wear you down, man. It just starts to wear you down. I mean, I think about it. I'm just like, I couldn't do that, man. I'm like, sometimes you just want to go home at like a reasonable hour and have some sleep and like see your like maybe your family if you have one, or just have some you time, isn't it? Me time. So yeah, that's the thing about like I know I don't like this was a while ago. This was when you worked there. It was in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So maybe it's changed. I think it's changed. Some of it's changed. Still have that sort of work culture, but yeah, it's good when I was going there as a tourist, but like when you're working it, it's completely different. And like you touched upon, there's a lot of like uh influencers, YouTubers who are now living in who move into
Mm.
Japan. And it's different when you're doing sort of content creating than working for an actual Japanese company or doing something different, isn't it? It's not the
It's
same.
It was so funny because I remember you explicitly saying, I remember walking around Japan, I was walking around Tokyo, and I was recording something and I was just talking about it, and you went to me, why don't you do your life in Japan? And this was like before any of the YouTubers had done it before. It was like
Mm.
2010, 2009. Um, and I said, oh God, that just seems like a lot of hard work right now. And I see these influencers like Chris Abroad, his girlfriend, the Canadian
Or
girl,
Shala.
yeah, and
Yeah.
their videos are really good. Like, don't get me wrong, they're really interesting. But they show a different. When I watch their videos, the Japan that I knew in 2008 is very different from the 2022 Japan.
Hmm.
And it's a shame that kind of there wasn't that kind of presence, online presence before, because I think it's very different, and it just shows how kind of different experiences can be, and how different Japan has become, really, because Japan has changed a lot.
Mm.
um, yeah.
Yeah. So at that time, were you still into anime?
Oh, absolutely. I was a massive nerd throughout my whole time in Japan. I went to Tokyo Game Show dressed up as Tifa about three or four
Uh,
times. I went to Tokyo Game Show.
yeah,
We
I
got
remember that. I remember you got interviewed, didn't you? You and Ali.
yeah, we got interviewed. And I got interviewed. I went to Tokyo. Ali went home for a year back to finish her American degree. And I went on by myself to Tokyo Game Show, and I was literally the only foreign Tifa, like I would say Europeanized Tifa. And I just got so much attention because I was it. Like they kept saying to me, so we went to the Comic Con, Comic Cat, which is Comic Cat. It was like a comic market connected together. And we got so much attention because people just thought we were the real thing, because you didn't see many foreigners. Like now you go to Tokyo Game Show and there's so many foreigners dressing up in cosplay. But back then when I was 21, considering I'm 34 now, like there was no foreigners there, and we were kind of like this,
Yeah,
you know, you
I feel like when I last went to Japan in 2019, did a video as well, vlog for it,
Hmm.
which I released long overdue. So if you haven't seen it, go and check that out on the channel. Um, there was loads of tourists, loads, and I kept thinking, the last time I went there was 2011, and the difference in the amount of tourists that was there from when I went there last in 2011 to when I went again in 2019 is vast. It's so there were so many, like compared to when I last went. I was like, wow. Everywhere I went, it was just like I was back in Europe or something. It's just so many like tourists there. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I get it. Like people wanted to go, but after a while, I was just like, oh God, like
Fuck off.
fuck off, man. I got away from you guys and now you're just all here. And
Yeah.
like, I remember like Kyoto is obviously a very big tourist destination. When I went there the first two times in 2010 and 11, I remember it was busy, but I don't remember there being that many tourists. And you could walk around and you can not get pushed around, not pushed around, but it wasn't like so crowded. But
Yeah.
2011, 19 time, I was just like, God damn, there's a lot of us. Went to the
Mm.
monkey. Remember when we went the first time in 2010, went to the Monkey Mountain,
Mountain. Yeah.
Kyoto. it was just me, you, and your friend at the time, Ed.
Ed, yeah.
It was just us three there. I just remember there was barely anyone there,
No,
and there was photos when it's just like us three and maybe a couple of Japanese tourists or Chinese tourists, and I went there, and if you see in the video, I'm just surrounded, man. Even the monkeys are thinking, "What the fuck? Why is there so many people up here?" It was just
yeah.
like, "Oh God!" But I guess I don't know why. I can't say why there is. Maybe the flights were cheaper, or people just wanted to go there more. I'm not too sure. Like, it's become a
I think
big
it's
tourist
been
destination.
I think when you went in the noughties, when you went to visit me at uni and when I was working there, um, the kind of like that there was no real resurgence of anime and interest in kind of Japan as a whole. But I think like from 2015 onwards, I did see like this huge resurgence of like people interested in Japan, and I'm
Mm,
not just booze. I'm not talking about people just like I want to be, I'm interested in anime and video
mm.
games. Like people who genuinely want to go, like because of the history and the shopping and everything like that. Whereas when I was there in 2010, it was only really like the nerds who were in Japan, like you were interested in Japan. Like it wasn't like as not mainstream, but it wasn't really a place you would go like,
I,
yeah, I'm gonna go
I,
to Japan for 2 weeks,
yeah, I
like
think like you touched upon, like more there's more YouTubers there, and obviously
mm,
they release videos about living in Japan or tourist destinations in Japan, and I think that's influence. I think social media had a big influence on like tourists coming over to Japan, because back in 2010 and 11 YouTube wasn't as big as it is now, and now like not even just YouTube, like Instagram,
but this is the
Twitter,
thing.
it's just huge now, and people get to see it more and more, and they're just like, oh, wow, I really want to go. It was like me with Korea. I'm like, wow, I was watching people's videos on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, man, I want to go there. I want to check it out.
Korea, yeah, and Korea is one of those places which I went to in 2010. Um,
Well,
and
it's only like an hour away from Japan.
it was yeah, it's like it's a 2 hour flight, and I went to Korea and I landed, and I was really into Korean dramas in 2010, and then I got back into it when I started watching it with mum over lockdown. But Korea is was like a poor, oh no, I shouldn't say that. It was like a okay version of Japan. Like it wasn't as exciting and it wasn't as international and it didn't have that kind of
Well,
connection.
it's had its sort of it's boom now.
Yeah,
It's people are realizing what a kind of like a cool country it is.
yeah,
It's had the
and it
movies, it's had the TV shows, obviously the music. I think that Gundam style music, the song really helped
well, that
kick
was
it off.
2012. That was a while ago. That was 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
but I think that's helped.
BTS now,
Yeah,
like
BTS, man, those sort of boy
yeah,
bands are taking over, man. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That's a good point. And you got the film like Train to Busan, you got Squid Game, you got other like a lot of dramas, and they're realizing, wow, this country's kind of popping. And you got their food, and you got the booze, which I don't think their beer is that good, but
Mm.
you have their
You
soap.
tried the bad one. There's some really good ones out there.
I've tried three.
You don't like any of them?
No, Cass I thought was
It's
absolute
too fizzy.
shit. It's too carbonated for me. I was
Yeah.
like, I can't vibe with this man.
But I think you'll go to Korea and you'll absolutely love it. Like I think
Yeah,
I
yeah, I do
I
want.
loved it
I
when I
am
went
going to
to
go,
Korea.
but obviously, pandemic and shit and
Well,
borders.
I loved Korea and I'm trying to get me and my partner out there. He's a bit reluctant. But I think Korea is one of those. Again, when I went there 2010, there was no Westerners. Like I could walk through streets and not bump into a Westerner. And when I was out there, they didn't even know like when they saw me and my friend Anna, they couldn't even pinpoint where we were from in the world. Like they had no idea. And I think now is probably a better like with Japan, I would have said going there 10 years ago in 2010 was probably the best time to go there. But with Korea, going there in 2010 was okay, but it was really isolating. Like if you didn't know Korean, it's tough shit. Nobody really spoke English. And I used all my Japanese, like, because a lot of Koreans, because they get a lot of Japanese tourists, could speak Japanese. So I spoke Japanese when I was out there. I think now they would probably be better at English because of their kind of amazing pop culture that they have like sold, and they sold it pretty well, I would say. I think it's like
Yeah, they've done
best
really
time to go
well.
out there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And the film, remember they won an Oscar with Parasite? That film was
Parasite was
good.
brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I
So
love their pop culture.
yeah, I like this. The style is, it's the only thing they're probably lacking, like Japan has, is probably like the anime sort of animation. Even though there's some good animation studios in Korea, but
They don't
maybe
make their own. They just like do the.
uh there's, I think Tower of God is, there's a thing called oh, what is it? Oh my God, there's like a style like manga, but it's the Korean style. Miss living in Japan?
Yes.
Yeah, what specifically do you miss about living in Japan?
So
Can I
it
sorry, sorry, I just asked a question and I'm interrupting you. But before we get onto that, one thing I miss about visiting Japan, and I think you probably know what it is and which you got me into, was karaoke. I
yeah.
miss having karaoke relatively available. It's available here in London, but you have to pay obscene prices and go into central London. I mean, every Japanese street has like a chain of karaoke. There's so many options you can go to, which offer
Yeah.
deals and stuff, and it's just it's such a fun way just to kill some time and spend time with your friends. And with us, it has to be an event. You have to gather friends, or we have to plan it in advance. A lot of times, me and you go, but we do have friends who want to join us. But it's always like a hassle trying to get everyone to go, and you have to
Yeah.
go pay the money, and then go up to London or inner London, and then you're just
Yeah.
like. But with Japan, it's just like, oh, let's just, if I like, go by myself, I'll be like, oh, I've got an hour to kill. Let's go and sing some songs, man. Have some drinks. It's good. But yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, but what do you miss that as well? What else do you miss about it?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, in terms of everyday life, like, I don't miss everyday life. Like, I miss the unique experiences you get from living in Japan. Like, I don't miss waking up to go to work. Like, that's one of the reasons I left, because I was so full of dread. The last time I went into work, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Um,
Specifically about that.
where, well, just like so. The thing is with Japanese co-workers, and not even Japanese co-workers, but just Japanese clients, even if you're teaching Japanese, right, to teaching English to Japanese, they are so guarded in everything that you just like, well, what did you do today? I went to the shop and I ate some tasty food, and it's like, I can't hear this again and again and again. It's just so dull. But once you get to know them, sorry, because I don't think they're one dimensional. I just think they're very guarded. Um, like I miss going to Disneyland with Yuka. I miss going to Fuji Q with Ali. I miss um, going to karaoke with my uni friends. I miss like going on dates in Japan. When I was dating in Japan was always a big thing, because you know my boyfriend at the time would make it such a big deal. We'd go to Inoshima and he would buy like a souvenir, and everything was just such an event in Japan. Like everything you did was an event. Whereas in England, I do this in my everyday life. Like I try to make things into events, because that's the only way life is enjoyable. But in Japan, it's just automatic. Like, oh, we're gonna go for a car ride to like Kyoto, and we're gonna enjoy going to the beach with our friends. Like you don't get that in
It's almost like living.
England.
It's
Like
almost like living in anime. It's almost
yeah.
like living in an anime, isn't it? Having a beach episode and getting in the car and an adventure.
But like that's exactly how it is in Japan. Like I remember when I was when I shouldn't talk too much about my dating life there, but I went for a barbecue. And he was like, okay, you're gonna meet all my friends, we're going for a barbecue. And it's exactly how it's depicted in anime.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
we're going for a barbecue, and then we're going to do the sprinklers, and like not sprinklers, sparklers, and it's going to be a big thing. And it was always everything was just such a fun thing to do, like going karaoke after uni or going somewhere doing something was always such a fun thing to
What
do.
Yeah. What about the what about the food? Do you not miss the food? Because that's what Japan's known for, having really good food.
I'm I'm glad when I was in Japan I wasn't a vegetarian because I think I wouldn't have as much fun as
Mm.
I
They don't
like.
really they don't really cater for vegan, vegetarian sort of palates,
No,
do they?
no,
Back then, anyway.
and also I don't eat fish now,
Mm.
so it's even more difficult. Where I was out there, I ate some fish because it was like the only thing that I couldn't. If I went back to Japan now and they were like, we have fish, I'd be like, I don't think I can eat fish. Like mum, when we was in Spain, bought paella and I had to eat around the fish. It's just I think I'm glad that I experienced it not being vegan, because I think I'd just be so dull if you were vegan, and just you wouldn't have as much fun, and the food is all very catered to meat and fish. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. What about like the not the nightlife, but the going out for drinks? Like, izakayas are a big thing over there.
Can I tell you a really I haven't told this story to anyone.
Do you
My
sure you want to tell it now, or
Yeah, yes, I
okay?
do. Ali knows the story very well. Um, one of my first nights going out was on Tokyo Game Show, and me after we went to Tokyo Game Show, me and Ali went to We was like, we need to go to the Square Enix shop. Like this was before the cafe, and it was just a shop. So after we went to Tokyo Game Show, we went all the way to Tokyo, which is quite a distance from Chiba to Tokyo.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and we
Mm.
got to the Tokyo shop, which was in Shinjuku. Yes, it was in
Yeah, it
Shinjuku.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got there, and I got the ring, and it was like the ring cost like £200, and I think I used a lot of my student loan to buy this fucking Tifa ring. Um, and then after we was like, we didn't want the night to end, so we ended up going to Shibuya, and we ended up. Ali was 20, I was 21, and we ended up going to I forgot what it's called, but it was like this really well-known nightclub in Shibuya, and me and Ali, we got absolutely drunk. We were absolutely
Hmm.
wasted, and we got there. I lost my wallet. It was all a big shambles.
Mm.
We found my wallet. It had all the money still inside because
That's what
Japanese
Japanese
are so nice.
don't steal really.
We didn't tell. So me and Ali lived in a
Yeah. Did you live in? You didn't live in student halls. You lived with a. What was those Japanese? Like a. She was like the not the mum.
Okasa. She was like a Okasa,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it wasn't called that. Wasn't she?
It
Wasn't called
wasn't
mother.
student. It was like it was a
She.
student accommodation, but it had like a mother who you
Mm,
had to report into. It was like anyway, it was like a accommodation, and we didn't tell them because I honestly didn't know that we had to tell them because I didn't know any Japanese at the time.
mm,
We got there, we got
yeah.
we got locked out
Mm.
until 7 a.m. until they opened the door. And so we didn't sleep that whole night, and we got let back in, and the car-san and the tour-san sat us down and just yelled at us for like 2 hours straight. And I had no idea what was going on, and I kept getting up thinking he had finished, and he was like, swap there, and that means like basically sit back down, sit down. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what's going on.
Mm,
And Ali, being the good girl that she was just taking it in. And I just kept getting more and more annoyed. You can imagine me, Paul. And
mm,
I just got up and I was like, and I remember saying this, and Ali was like, go again. I was like, no, I'm an adult. I can do what I want. And then he was like, sit back down. So I sat back down. And
mm,
then he turned because he could speak English. And he did the whole thing in Japanese, and he went, "You can never do this again." And he said that in English. And I turned around and I said to him, "That's okay because we're moving out."
mm.
And that's the last thing I said to him.
No,
And you know that,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
Sorry, okay.
And you know that apartment you came to see me in, and we had that massive like 2 bedroom. That was the apartment me and Ali moved in after we got that bollocking. And we had such a great time in that apartment. And do you know how much that apartment cost us for a month?
Between the two of you?
Between the two of us, how much did we pay
What,
each?
in yen or in pounds?
In just saying pounds.
Probably 300 each.
So that apartment cost 700, it was like 700,000, no, 70,000 yen. And that was basically how much? £350 each.
Each. Oh, that's good.
No,
That's
no, it
cheap.
was even less than that. It was like, it was about like £300 each
Yeah.
for
So
that apartment.
yeah,
And I remember,
that was a big apartment.
yeah, and I remember going to Ali, and I was like, I don't think I can afford this. I really, because what we were paying for what we were with that castle on the Torson was £150
Mm.
for that room. But I was like, I'd rather just live on my own and have my own freedom. But I remember that night having a great night. I think me and Ali made out with some guy. I made out with some guy. It was brilliant. We had such a good night. And we were all like, I had like my fucking teeth ring on, and I had like these ridiculously stupid extensions in my hair, and I just had a great night. And I lost my wallet and got
Found it.
kicked out
Yeah.
of my accommodation in Japan. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there is there anything like I don't want to ask this question because it kind of
Oh,
like will end the no, it will sort of it's because that's sort of the question I'm going to leave to the end. Um, but like if you could if you could do it now, would you do it now? Like, would you live in Japan if you had the chance to do it now?
if I was 20,
Yeah,
yes.
but not now.
Not as so do you remember 2 years ago I was so avid of going back and
Hmm.
going back to Japan, and like I think because we got into that mode where we were in lockdown, do you remember? And
Mm.
we'd watched a lot of Pablo in Japan and
Mm.
watching a lot of like, and I really missed it. But I look back at it now and I go, like, unless someone like Chris abroad, I don't think I would work for a Japanese company again. I don't think I would. Um, and I really enjoyed my freedoms in England, which you just won't get in Japan.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, what do you reckon is the downside of your time living in Japan? Because there's obviously the work culture there, being a foreigner there, being a girl there. There's
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people talk about how great Japan is, but there is, like with any country, there's some downsides which a lot of people sort of gloss over. The good things are about Japan, like obviously like the low crime rate and stuff, and obviously like the food and people are quite friendly. Well, not friendly, but they keep to themselves, but they're courteous. That's what I want to
I
say.
I would say being a foreign man in Japan is a lot easier than being a foreign woman in Japan. Um, and I would say that I was very protected when I was out there, and I didn't realize until like I had to experience Japan on my own. Like when I say on my own, is because when I was at uni, I had my friends and I had Ali, and then I had my boyfriend, and then I had this year when I was friends with people at Berlitz, where it became a very isolated place. And the one thing I don't miss is the racism that you get out there. I When I was out there, I got punched on the arm when I was for speaking English. Like I was,
Wow.
yeah, I was punched and nobody did anything. Like if that happened in England and I got punched by a man, I think a lot of the tube would stop and be like, "What just did you
Or
do?"
you would hope you would hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and I got I got quite a bit of harassment. I got followed by a police officer all the way back to my apartment in Mitaka, um, which wasn't the one that I lived in by myself in Narima. It was the last one that you didn't get to see. A police officer came, said that he had followed me all the way home and he needed to see my ID. And I was like, God, could you imagine a police officer in England following you all the way back home and just to ask you your driving license? It just,
You, yeah, you're meant to have that as a foreigner on you all the
yeah,
time, isn't it? Even like as a tourist, you're meant to have your ID on you because they can,
yeah,
like, police could just stop you. Go, what are you doing there? You here
yeah,
illegally, or
yeah.
it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. But lucky, that never happened to me. But visiting, but obviously that's different from living there.
Yeah, so I got that happen to me, and when the first time it happened to me, because I know this sounds really bad, but you hear that happening to foreigners who are either Asian or like South Asian, who are like Filipino or um, black people who they get stopped a lot. But when it happened to me, I was kind of like, really? Like, not because I don't think I like that they deserve and I didn't. It was kind of just like, oh God, it made me realize that, yeah, I'm still a foreigner. It doesn't matter how much I try to fit in, I'm always going to be a foreigner. So, and when I got followed home, I was like, this guy knows where I live. Like he followed me all the way home, and that's just not weird. Yeah. So those were like some of the worst points. And one time, Ali got followed home by, not followed home, but she got harassed a lot as well. And I had to go and pick her up from
Yeah,
from the
she's
train station.
your friend's American and she's blue-eyed and blonde-haired as well. So she got
She's green eyes, yeah, but
well,
yeah, it
yeah.
doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember when I was in Japan, like when I first visited, and we were in was it a nightclub in Osaka,
Mm,
and I just remember like so many girls had to, like, people you knew,
mm,
and we weren't, not you knew, but they were friends of our friends. They were girls, and they were like, said to me, "Can you pretend to be my boyfriend? Because I'm just getting hit on so much." They would just
mm.
hit on you, and you see it. I was just like, "God damn! Like, what's going on? Like, the people are so thirsty over there." It's like, do you know what I mean? I was just like, "Oh, okay, it's not good." But to be fair, it was Japanese, but there was a lot of tourists, a lot of Americans there, and a lot of Americans were hit on the Japanese girls. The Japanese guys were hit on the foreign girls, and it was just like they would like always had. I think I had to pretend to be like someone's boyfriend at one point.
Boyfriend.
Remember, and I was just like, "Oh shit!" And I just remember the guys like, "Hey, is that your girlfriend, man?" I was like, "Yeah, man, it's my girlfriend." They
Mm,
were like, "Oh, okay." He was cool about it, but I was just like, "Oh, jeez." But
yeah.
it was fun, and like I like that. But yeah, it's a problem. Like, well, that was a few years ago, so maybe I don't know. I don't think it's got any better. Like, maybe a lot of people still talk about problems in Japan with, you know, racism. I want to choose my words carefully, but sometimes I watch videos, I'm just like, I'm gonna just say it as it is. Like, Japanese, they're just the same as anyone else. Yeah, like a lot of people, a lot of people just brush off, go, "Oh, it's just the way they are. It's just Japan." I'm like, oh man, if that was like a Western Europe or America or anywhere else, that would just be called what it is. And with Japanese, it would just like, oh, it's just they're stuck in their ways, or it's just how they are. Or you know what I mean? Well, they didn't mean
It,
anything by it. I was like, no, they're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing.
well, to be honest with you, and I'm going to put this very bluntly,
Mm.
is that when I went to Japan, do you remember when I first went there? Not the consequence.
Yeah,
afterwards.
you went there on
I tried
holiday.
so hard to fit in. Do you remember?
Like when you went there on holiday or when you're living there?
When I was living there the first
Oh,
time, do you remember? Like I tried so hard to fit in because I knew what the other kind of not trying to fit in, what the other outcome was like. And the thing is, I remember Ali going to me, she said, well, she said to her, she said about herself, she was like, well, I'm white, like I can't really complain because I still have privilege. And I was like, Ali, you're experiencing racism. Like, like I don't know how other, like, you're being pinpointed because you're blonde and you've got green eyes and you're experiencing a level of harassment because of the way you look. Like, that's racism. Like, I don't know how else to put that, but that's just what it is. And when I stopped trying to fit in, like, I would speak English, not loudly, but I'd speak English quite frequently in the trains and stuff. And I would get hit and I would get told to shut up. And I would get told, if I was speaking English, people wouldn't sit next to me. And
yeah,
people
it's
would be like, oh, it can't be racism because you're European. And it's like, well, no.
no, it is. It
What
is.
if you were in
It
Europe
is.
and somebody didn't want to sit next to you because
No,
you need a foreign language is
yeah, it
racism,
is.
like
It is.
whatever.
It is. It's maybe like they're scared of you talking to them or you being loud, but it's still a form of like it's like when people go, that's how they think you're going to talk to them or talk English or you're going to be loud. I'm like, well, that's making an assumption of me as a person just because of how I look or where I'm from.
Mm.
That is a form of xenophobia or racism and stuff like that. It's because you could say about race burger, well, this is but I don't want to sit next to these bunch of black guys or something because they're black and they could cause
Mm.
trouble. It's just the same thing, You might it's kind of like is a like a form of discrimination in a way. And
And you,
um, I, I did I experience any when I. It's a bit weird when I'm on holiday there and I got that holiday
I,
mindset. But I do remember like when we were coming back from a night out in Shibuya and we were talking really loudly in the back of a taxi back to fucking Chiba, which seemed to go forever. And
yeah.
the guy speaking to you in Japanese thought I was your American boyfriend, told you to get rid of me. And I was just like, well, I'm her brother, but I didn't know. You told me that afterwards when he was. So I remember him talking to you.
Mm. Well, yeah, he said, so you left to go and pay. You went back upstairs to go and
Yeah,
pay.
'cause
And
it's fucking expensive.
when you went upstairs to pay, he went, Kareshi, dame, dame, dame. And I was like, he said something about my boyfriend or not being good. And I went, no, 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 no. And he went, I went, that's my brother. And I said it to him. I went like, oh, on it, Oni, and he was like, what? He just kind of his face fell, and he was like, I thought that was your boyfriend, and he was like, you look nothing alike, and I was like, that's weird because in England, some people used to think we were twins, So
Uh,
um,
we looked quite similar in when we were as babies. We look very
yeah.
similar. Like I look at baby pictures and I'm just like, oh, is that me? And it's like, oh, no, it's Laura. We
Mm.
like very like similar looking kids. But yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, Pan's like good, and I like it. I do like that stuff. Like their trains run on time and shit, and things seem to work over there.
How,
It's always like annoying when I just get the train. I'm just like, oh, the train's delayed
how about
again.
you? Like, can I just ask you a question? Like,
No,
because I remember you went in 20, because I remember I was meant to go with you in 2019. I just didn't have enough money. And you went and you came back and you were like, I had a really good time, but it wasn't the same. Like you said to me. And I just want to know, like, what
uh,
made it different from 2019 to 2011? Like, what
no. Well, the
was,
first time I went was 2010. It just wasn't the same because there's factors in it because nothing's like as long as it's not sex when like first time you have sex is shit but like
mm,
when you experience something for the first time it's always the first time and that's
mm,
great and so he's always trying to like it's like when people take like certain drugs or something they just like oh nothing can beat the first time he takes this drug or something it's like that it's just like oh I can't it can never recreate because
mm,
like when I went to Japan in 2019 I was going with friends and
Mm.
those friends haven't been to these parts of Japan, like Tokyo and all like Akibara and Shibuya, and I've been there like a couple of times. So I was like, oh, this is old hat to me. And we went to Kyoto, we went to Nara, and I've been there already. So it's kind of like retreading my steps. But when I did have a really, really like experience, good experience for myself is when we went to Hiroshima and Nara, was it Merit?
Nagasaki.
No, no, I didn't go to Nagasaki. It was just
Uh, uh,
Hiroshima. It went to that island with the
Miyajima.
Miyajima. Yeah, went there to the island on the boat. That was really cool, man. That was probably my best experience of that. I was like, because it stands out. It's just like I've not done this before, so I think it was more of the fact that were sort of retreading what I've already done. Obviously, I went to the manga museum again, and I went to like all these places in Akibara again, Shibuya again, Osaka again. But
Mm,
that time, like those times when I didn't go to those places, it was a new experience for me. So I really enjoyed it. Not like I didn't enjoy
mhm.
going to see those places again, but
Yeah.
it's like I wanted like if I go to Japan again, I would probably like to go to like I was thinking Sapporo or maybe like further south, like
I was gonna say to you, you should go to Sao Paulo
mm,
because you like it's like the thing is with Japan, it's kind of like UK. Like if you
mm.
go to Scotland, it's very different from going to Cornwall. It's like being in a different country.
Well, it
Like
is really, isn't it? It's
yeah,
down
yeah. Well,
Scotland.
yeah. Scotland and Cornwall are different countries, but do you know what I mean? Like Sao Paulo is, it's got that. Sao Paulo is an Ainu word,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's got that Ainu feeling, and it's got that indigenous kind of feeling as well. It's very different from the rest of Japan,
It's
and I think you should go to Okinawa
yeah, that's where I want to go. I would like to go because Okinawa was a kingdom on its own before it was incorporated by Japan. Same with Sapporo, like the Hokkaido area. It was very indigenous people living there, and I think there's still a lot of them live there, but they have been
Mm.
absorbed by the Japanese people. And yeah, it is like people always say, "Oh, UK, all it is London." I'm like, it's not, man. You're disrespecting the people from Scotland because I bet they have a big say to so go. Then we're not the same. We're different. You know,
Yeah.
it's a different experience because like. I mean, when we used to go to Scotland and on holiday, it was different. It was like, like you say, it is a different country. The accents are different. They speak differently.
The culture is
Their
different.
their culture is different. You know, like the landscape is a lot different, and it's way same when you go to Wales, man. That those people have their own goddamn language, and it's fucking
Mhm.
like it's an ancient language. It's probably one of the oldest languages in Europe. So it's different. UK is different, even in different regions of England. It's different.
UK, like
Yeah,
Cornwall,
no,
different
like
from.
not don't say UK, just say England because like we
Sorry, sorry.
like different
Like
like
Cornwall, different from Yorkshire.
you got
Yeah.
Cornwall, you got like parts in the north, and you got even down here in south, you got Essex. It's really different from other parts, you know, and you got the Midlands as well. So it's all different. So when people go UK shit or and especially when people say it when they're living in Japan and like YouTubers who are from the UK and say that about Britain. Like a lot of people say the architecture is shit compared to from Japan to UK, and a lot of people say it's not. I agree, it's not. It's better. I think it's better. I think
What architecture?
architecture is better than Japanese.
Oh my
You've
God,
got
absolutely. I
apart from the mega cities, like all look the same, but yeah, sorry, yeah.
can I just say, like, so I was, I should keep, but I was dating a guy last year. He was from Japan Hero, and we were walking around Crystal Palace, our
Yeah,
hometown.
don't dox me. Don't say where I live. I'll never where I
Oh
live.
shit, sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Can you cut that out?
yeah, I'm gonna have to cut that, man. Don't
Okay.
say where
Okay. So,
specifically.
Can I just say South London?
Yeah.
Okay. So we were living. So we went to South London. Oh, God. We were in South London. He was walking around, and there was names of the like 1880 and stuff. You don't get that stuff in Japan. Like you don't get stuff that's originally that old because like in Kyoto, the stuff like golden pavilion, it's been replaced so many times that it's not actually the age it is. And so therefore, like our architecture, some of it has been around since the 1500s. And that's one thing I just love about the UK is that some of the architecture is just so old and so rich with history. You don't get that in generally, you don't get that in Japan.
Well, yeah, like you do have like the old buildings, but they're being replaced and or they're made of wood, so they've been
Because it
torn
wouldn't.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've got a lot of like natural disasters, or that they have to tear them down. You can UK like it's like you could say like London is a different city to Edinburgh. Edinburgh is completely like different city to London, and you can also say that about York to London. It's completely Canterbury different.
Mm.
It's all like
Bath,
Bath.
gorgeous.
Bath is like a Roman town. It's old. I want to say one for Wales, but I've only been like to Cardiff, and I can't remember much of Cardiff. So apologies, Welsh guys, but people. But uh,
Snowdonia is beautiful
oh
as well.
yeah, but I'm talking about that's landscapes. I'm talking about towns and cities. And I know there's loads of old like villages and towns in Wales, which are really cool. I mean, like you got to be because they've been around. They're the OG Brits. So, but it is different. And when people make the comparison to UK and Japan, it is it's kind of unfair. The food obviously is better in Japan. It is like
I
compared.
don't.
No,
So,
no,
can
no,
I
no. Like, yeah,
disagree?
what I'm saying, like, where are you going?
I know I'm over here. Sorry, I just
Like, I thought you fell over.
I don't
Compared,
agree with that anyway.
compared, like, what indigenous food compared. When say people say Japanese food, sometimes they incorporate like foods from other countries as well, like especially other Asian countries.
So when I was in Japan for a year, I love Japan. I love takoyaki. I love okonomiyaki. I love sushi.
When
Love
you say
ramen.
you were in Japan for a year, you were there longer, man.
No, no, I mean 5 years, but the first year, I'm just talking
Yeah.
about the first year, I was there. Like, I didn't eat any English food. Like, I was like, oh, I'm all about the takoyaki, the ramen, the everything. And then, like, after a year, it's like, I just want a Sunday roast. Like, I just want my roasted potatoes, my Yorkshire puds, and my roasted chicken, like, and my gravy. Like, I think people shit on English food a lot, but once you've not had it for a long time, you're just like, oh God, I could die. I could do with a cottage pie and a Lancashire hot pot, you know? You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, yeah, it's like um also with Scotland, yeah, they got
Yeah.
they have more of it. People complain about like UK food or English food with weird names like spotted dick and all that. But then you got it like the most famous ones like haggis, man. I've never tried
No.
haggis, but it doesn't look appetizing, but
Well, you
apparently
would never try haggis anymore,
not
anyway.
anymore. But even when we went up there as a kid, I was like, I'm not really interested in eating that. But yeah, it's like life there. It's weird because you get a lot of Japanese people who live in the UK who prefer living here because it's more freeing because there's so many social etiquette
Etiquette.
etiquette in Japan that Japanese people have to abide by because being Japanese they have to sort of because they're homogenous and they're all like it's a collective society so they all work like have to sort of get together.
Would-
We're more individualistic. But even though we do have those old traditions, but they're sort of being faded out. But the Japanese, like who live in London, much prefer living here than they do in Japan. They,
I can I can I just say something? Like after living in Japan for that long, I don't know the difference now, but people say Japan's a lot like if it's going to be like a Western country, it'll be like America. I completely disagree. I think Japan is like the England of Asia. Like it is in some ways it's very the reason I could live there for so long is because it's very similar it has very similar UK customs. Like our traditions are quite similar. And I mean that in like the way, not like culturally, but like the way we hold ourselves. Like we follow rules, we love queuing, we love tea, we go on the same side of the escalator, we say
we dr-
sorry a
we
lot.
we drive on the left.
We drive on the left.
Yeah,
Like
we say sorry a lot.
Yeah, like I
Yeah. Sorry, like I'm just gonna say an example. People ask you for directions, and you're just like, oh, I don't know. I'm very sorry, sorry, sorry. And just like,
sorry.
why am I saying sorry for? You know what I mean? Like just saying sorry. I'm for, oh, but it's just like inbred into us. Mm.
I do think England and Japan are very similar. Like I do feel like when I was in Japan that I was constantly saying sorry or making tea or like being on the left hand side of the escalator or the road, like I don't think it's that different. And I think that's why we have a mutual respect for each other. And that's why there's more Brits that stay comfortably in Japan than there are Americans, and likewise, like vice versa. And I have to ask you, would you live in Japan?
I did,
I have.
I did think about it, for a period.
Mm,
Um, I don't think I could, as much as I love the country, and much as I like a lot of their pop culture, technology, which is a thing like people think Japan's very technologically advanced. It was maybe in the 80s, but they're stuck in that time period. So I don't think it's like a mecca of technology. It's not really. I think like
they don't
Korea.
have contactless.
Yeah.
They had
Well,
contactless when you went there.
they do now, but it's not as prevalent as it is here. It's taken them a long fucking time to catch up with that. I think like Korea is probably more ahead of them and China in terms of technology, even America. I mean, like everything that's technology based is coming out of like the Silicon Valley. But would I live there? We have a friend who really wanted to live there, but I don't think he's gonna want to live there anymore. And I always say it's good to visit, but I don't know. I couldn't work as a salary man. I don't think I could anyway. Would I work there as a content creator? I probably not. I'm too old for that now. Maybe in my younger days, but
So, how old is Chris? Chris is my age now.
32. But he's been there for
32. He looks a lot older.
yeah,
That's
he gets that. Not that we know him personally, but he's been there for like 8 years. But
because his girlfriend is older than me.
I think she went 36 or something.
Yeah,
So,
she's
yeah,
36.
yeah, but I'm just saying like, would I do it? Yeah, I would if the offer, but I wouldn't live in Tokyo. I would live in Chiba. I really like
Not to
Chiba.
hurry.
Uh, quite it's outside of Tokyo, but it's still the greater Tokyo metropolitan area. You can still get a train in there. It's quieter. It's less chaotic, and I'll be more chilled. I think if I lived in Tokyo, in the center, I think I'll probably go crazy. I know I'll probably drink myself into an early grave and do like just go.
I, I had a friend who left Japan when they were 25 and they moved back when they were 40 and they've been there for 15 years. So they're
Mm,
55 now.
yeah,
And you know what he said to me? Because he's married with Japanese
yeah,
partner, his kids. He went, if you, when I left, because I left when I was 25, he went, if you're not back by 40, you're not coming back. That's what he
mm,
said. He said a lot of people come back around 36 or 40, between 36 and 40. If you don't come back by then, you're not coming back.
mm,
And he said, you've always got time to come
mm.
back. Like it's not going to disappear.
Okay, but yeah, so that was your discussion about life in Japan and comparisons. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it there. So yeah, thanks for watching and thanks for listening. If you're on Spotify or any other cast platform, thanks for listening. And if you want to, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you again, Frankie, for filling in for Mr. Ross, which hopefully he'll be coming back soon. But yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.